Joining us now, former CIA officer Mark Polymeropoulos. He's a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council. Thank you, Mark, for joining us. Let's listen to some of the latest comments we're hearing from President Trump. This was as he met with French President Macron yesterday, where he said a lot of progress has been made in his efforts to negotiate peace in Ukraine.
We've done a lot of things in a very short period of time, 4 weeks. As I've said before, it's my hope that my greatest legacy, however, will be as a peacemaker and a unifier.
His greatest legacy as a peacemaker and a unifier. If that is the president's goal, are his actions and rhetoric supporting that?
Well, not at all. In fact, we've seen a rather stunning change in the U.S. as a tremendous ally to Ukraine, then almost shifting to a period of neutrality, which was kind of the sentiment over the Munich Security Conference that occurred last week, now to one in which we're tilting towards Moscow. And it's really a stunning change. And we almost have this, mercantilist attitude towards this mineral deal. We almost are acting like a mafia state, two mafia dons negotiating over something. You have the underbosses meeting in Riyadh, and then somehow they're going to decide what happens in their city. I mean, it's really a betrayal of U.S. values. And Trump is not being a peacemaker in any way. He's actually betraying a country, Ukraine, that I would remind people is an ally of the United States. Anna, there were Ukrainian Special Operations Forces on the ground in the airport in Afghanistan, in Kabul, when we withdrew. They actually were there afterwards. They have been by us as an ally, and we are betraying them now.
Well, Trump's allies will argue he may do things unconventionally, but he gets results. Could that be the case here?
Well, I'm not sure what the result would be here, because this deal, of course, there's no notion yet of what are the security guarantees. I mean, what does Ukraine actually get for this? And that is an unknown. And I really think you see countries in Europe understanding this. And, one perhaps positive outcome is that the Europeans are stepping up. But they're the ones who are going to have to come through in the end. I would note that if somehow Zelensky finds this palatable, he's also going to have to get this deal past the Ukrainian parliament as well. And that's an unknown, because, frankly, as Zelensky has been standing up to Trump, his popularity is certainly rising. He is not in any way, as Trump seems to define him, as a dictator, not in the least.
Well, the president was asked yesterday if Putin was a dictator, and he wouldn't answer that directly. Watch.
If you called Zelensky a dictator, would you use the same words regarding Putin?
I don't use those words lightly. I think that we're going to see how it all works out. Let's see what happens. I think we have a chance of a really good settlement between various countries.
You note that the president did call Ukrainian President Zelensky a dictator. As a former intel officer, how do you make sense of that? And I'm curious what you're hearing from your contacts or former colleagues who have served in Russia or Ukraine.
Well, that I think is a really interesting point, because I had a unique perspective on this conflict. I have one as a former CIA officer, because, I served overseas in the field with indigenous groups like the Afghans, or Afghan fighters in Afghanistan, or with the Iraqi Kurds up in northern Iraq. And so we break bread with them, we fight with them, we plan operations with them, but they become, we become one with them. Can you imagine, Anna, right now, if you're a member of the U.S. intelligence community or the special operations world, and you have to look your Ukrainian partners in the eye? I think it's pretty dismaying. Russia was the aggressor here. Russia has raped and pillaged throughout Ukraine. There's no doubt about that. And it really kind of gives the question of where's the U.S. credibility on this? There's going to be other conflicts in the future. What happens in 2027 when former CIA Director Bill Burns noted China would be ready, would have the capability to invade Taiwan? Do you think the people of Taiwan are looking to the United States now as a guarantor of their security? I think not. And so I think there's some profound implications of this policy switch.
Mark Polymeropoulos, really appreciate your perspective. Thank you very much.